edition of All 90s Action All the Time. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Murphy, and on this edition of our 90s Seagal journey, we are going to look at Seagal's biggest hit and what many consider to be his best picture, Under Siege. And who do I mean by we? Well, of course, I am referring to my co-host, podcaster, screenwriter, and a man who almost certainly has a mysterious CIA past, Mr. Kyle Hintz.
Yes, it's good to be here.
So, as always, before delving into this one, going to give you a little bit of background detail, listener, in case you don't know, which you probably do, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Under Siege was released in 1992 and was directed by Andrew Davis, whose other notable credits include The Fugitive, Chain Reaction, and Seagal's debut feature, Nico, or Above the Law, depending where you saw that movie. It was released under both titles, and was written by J.F. Lawton, who also worked with Davis later on Chain Reaction, and somewhat bizarrely, as well as writing this movie, wrote Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, which some of you may know, it's an early Bill Maher effort, and Pretty Woman. Yes, He wrote that film, this film, and Pretty Woman. That's a weird career that Mr. Lawton has had.
He also wrote Blank Man.
Yes, he also wrote Blank Man. And the Christopher he wrote and directed the mid-90s Christopher Lambert action movie Hunted as well. He's the man's had an interesting career. As well as being Seagal's biggest commercial hit, it was also one of it's basically his only minor critical hit. It currently holds a 6.5 on IMDb, 79% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 29 reviews, 58% on Metacritic based on 17 reviews, and 3 right on the dot on Letterboxd. Although I rated it 4, listener, in case you're interested. I mean, one of those stars might be out of nostalgia, but that's it's all good. So as always, I'm sure you've seen this one before, Kyle.
Yes, of course. Although, as we were saying off air, I kind of merged it in my mind with Under Siege 2. So it was good to revisit it.
So yeah, how long ago had you last seen it?
I don't think I had seen it since the 90s, but I do remember it being one of those movies that we rented a lot as kids, like it was a big one.
Yeah. Same here. And as we also talked about off air, this is the second time that Andrew Davis had worked with Seagal, as I just mentioned there. And we were kind of talking about maybe unlike nearly everyone else who had directed them up to this point, maybe they didn't fall out. But then again, I also read that the studio had said that Seagal will only be in 41 minutes of the 98-minute running time, and that seemed to convince Davis to jump on board the project, so maybe he was not the biggest Seagal fan after all.
Yeah, maybe he was just the most polite collaborator.
I also thought that Davis must have had something against the ponytail, because he didn't have the ponytail in Nico, he doesn't have a ponytail in this, but I read that the ponytail actually came off because ponytail would not be Navy regulation, and his haircut was a maximum of 4 inches because that's the maximum allowed in the Navy, and that's the only accurate thing that they have about naval. It's a weird thing because he does lots of things that I'm sure are not regulation. Very close to the start of this movie, so it's you pick your battles, obviously.
Well, I mean, Seagal, that's him just committing to the method though as well, as he's known for.
He is known for that. Although I have to say, I watched a couple of interviews with Seagal from this time, and one of them was on the Arsenio Hall show. It's weird. He must have been a regular in there, because I'm sure I've definitely mentioned that he was on the Arsenio Hall show before. I think it was when Mark for Death we were talking about.
It was either that or Hard to Kill.
Oh, yeah. No, it was Marked for Death. It was Marked for Death because the clip they showed was the car chase, and he wasn't happy about that. the car chase that ends up in the department store. Yeah, I remember now. Anyway, he was on that, and he was like basically Arsenio Hall kind of said, "Oh, like you're well known as like a martial artist and that, but how much would you rate yourself out of 10 as an actor?" And Seagal says 2.5, and like he might be being deliberately self-deprecating for sympathy, as a kind of reverse psychology. Who knows? But it could just be an honest answer that he realizes his limitations. I mean, unlikely, but
it's impossible to say, given that's like the Seagal MO. He's gonna say some like really sarcastic, but he doesn't mean it at all, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. He probably deep down he was thinking, "I'm a 10. I am a 10. I am the man."
I'm an 11.
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah. Oh, and as is a common theme in the episodes that we've been talking about, this was Under Siege was not the original title. It went through a couple of title changes. The original title, which was Dreadnought, which is not a good title. See why it was called Dreadnought, because of the ship, but like people just, that's not an action title. People Dreadnought, like unless they know kind of like battleships and know that that's for a class of battleship. I don't know. It's not a great title.
I thought it was a cool title.
I mean, but it's kind of like in terms of like people kind of knowing what it is, a bit like the 7-Year Storm thing. 7-Year Storm's a great title, but like
too specific.
It's too specific. You look at it in the poster and you'd be like, then apparently the studio, because they were like, well, the 3-word title thing has had such success for us. Let's try one of them. So it was briefly called Last to Surrender, before becoming Under Siege. Yeah, Last to Surrender is pretty shit. Like, I don't like that title.
I love that the studio's primary function is just like, I think we know titles. So just shut up and we got this.
Yeah.
It's our expertise.
That's where we excel. The marketing department is all over this.
And lo and behold, they delivered.
Indeed. And lastly, before we get into this, as I should have done in the first 2 episodes, but didn't, I should give big spoiler warnings because we kind of go through the plot of each movie in these episodes, kind of beat by beat, as much as we can. It's not like a scene by scene breakdown, like, we've not analyzed it to that degree, but where we go through the plot, so all the spoilers, so big fat spoiler warning right at the start of the episode. If for some reason you have not seen Under Siege, go watch it now and then come back and listen to Kyle and I talk about it.
Yes, and so we can now say, spoiler alert, Steven Seagal succeeds in all his combat.
Yes, Steven Seagal wins in the end, much to the surprise of everyone.
Big twist.
Okay, so let's get down to the plot. How do we start, Kyle? How do we kick this stuff off?
With just some glorious shots of this giant naval ship and a nice kind of weird preamble about Pearl Harbor and a visit from George W. Bush and Seagal there as a chef. There's a lot of stuff, actually.
Yeah. And apparently, reading into it, that is all true. So the USS Missouri, real ship, the back history about the Pearl Harbor thing and about it firing the first shots in the Gulf War and all that stuff, apparently totally true. And the footage of George Bush Sr., giving an address as part of the kind of Pearl Harbor Memorial, that was real archival footage as well. So that was all real history. Although at the time, the USS Missouri was not a decommissioned boat, so they filmed some of it there, but they filmed most of it on a ship called the USS Alabama.
And that is all factual and ends up being totally unimportant.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, like,
So,
it's
like,
just a bit of kind of like, yeah, just added on there, bit of flavoring for you, a bit of historical flavoring, just for the sake of it, to give it that extra layer of authenticity that it really needed.
until Gary Busey shows up.
Until Gary Busey shows up in scene 2. So yes, as part of this celebration, everybody is in their formal whites, apart from Steven Seagal. So, yep, naval regulation haircut, but apparently totally allowed not to be in his ceremonial uniform and just not to turn up to the ceremony because Casey Ryback don't do ceremonies.
No, he doesn't. He's just that good of a chef.
Yes, the captain loves his cooking so much that he can basically get away with anything. But early on in one of the early scenes as well, there is a conversation between Commander Krill, who is played by Gary Busey, and Captain Adams, who is played by Patrick O'Neill. And they are having a conversation about that, and Krill is kind of grilling him on this, and like he's just a damn cook. Why did you put up with so much shit from him? Why do you let him get away with all this? And Captain Adams kind of mysteriously says he's more than just a cook. He's,
the seed is planted.
Yeah, the seed is planted. And then after that we get some fun times in the kitchen. We have a little dance-off between a character called Q-Ball and Ramirez, who's played by Raymond Cruz, who we saw in the last movie as one of Richie Montano's thugs, playing a guy called Hector. But in this movie, he's Seagal's best bud. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, moving on up
in his supporting roles in Seagal movies. What a guy.
We also get some weird joking around from Seagal, but it's like you can't hear the jokes that he's saying. It's like a montage, but we see that everybody loves him and he's the funniest guy. And
he is the absolute best chef. He should get the best chef award, best guy on the boat award. Yeah, everybody it's very much shown that, like in all Seagal movies, where it has to be painted in big lettering that he's a badass, and it also has to be painted in big lettering that he is the nicest guy in the film. Everybody loves him. Only assholes hate him, and he gets to rib and mock and belittle all the assholes, much to the mirth of everyone around him.
Yes. Perfectly stated.
One of those people is a guy called Ensign Taylor, who is played by one of those actors. I didn't know his name. I had to look it up. Is a guy called Glenn Morsher, and he is just kind of one of those characters who often pops up, and he always plays like the same role, just like a sniveling Jobsworth, kind of tells people off, and he gets told what basically where to shove it. That's he is given short shrift by Seagal,
and we get the sense that despite Seagal having no rank, he can just do whatever he wants in the Navy. Apparently,
yes, that is very true. So we've already again, regulation haircut, but we've already seen him totally defy orders of not being in the ceremonial whites. And then this ensign guy, who is obviously a rank above him, can order him legitimately, he just mocks the shit out of him. Like, he like the ensign guy is like, talking about call me sir, and like Seagal's all like, you don't have to call me sir, we're all cool here down in the galley. Again, much to the laughter of all the cooks.
Yep, typical Seagal. And all the guy wants him to do is not cook, because they're going to have a surprise party and fly in food for the captain for his birthday.
Which Seagal finds absolutely outrageous. How dare anybody else cook for the captain? He is the only person who can cook to the specific standards of Captain Adams. Nobody else can cook for him. That is the truth. God damn it. So there. So Seagal totally defies that order, and then Yeah, in a weird scene, after the ensign guy like leaves, like Ramirez is the one person in the kitchen staff who's like, yeah, that does seem like against regulations. You could get in trouble for that. And then like Seagal putting on a weird Southern accent,
Yes.
which he does not put on for the rest of the movie. Just in this one mini scene, he like says, it's giving me the shivers, all the things that Commander Krill will do to me. And he just puts on this weird Southern drawl for like these like 2 lines.
Well, he's kind of trying to steal that the Mosher guy's accent.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But which we have discussed in previous episodes, and we'll talk about more. His weird, like, assuming people's the way they speak all the time, and kind of like adopting it.
Yes, he does that a lot in all of his movies. This is not quite the kind of cringeworthy effect that happens in other movies, particular movies where he's interacting with black people. And
he's trying to mock this person.
Yes, that is true. Like I'm just thinking about like one of the movies I recently saw was a movie called Urban Justice, and he just he takes on the accent. He takes on that kind of voice of various African American characters he meets. And I also remember it in Half Past Dead, a movie where you get to see Seagal wearing a do-rag, which is just ridiculous even for Seagal.
And you can totally see it though. Like
that is absolutely true. But that film came out in 2002, and therefore we cannot talk about it on the podcast. It is banished.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Anyway, we're only like 10 minutes into this movie, so we should keep on trucking, I think.
Yes. So we also find out that they're flying in a Playboy Playmate of July or whatever.
Miss July 1989. Apparently this was also factually correct. I also read that. Yes. Apparently Erika Eleniak was in the July 1989 edition of Playboy. So there you go. But I need to reassure the listeners, I'm not just a creepy man who has weird Playboy knowledge. I researched the movie. I do research on these movies, and that was one of the weird facts that came up. Yes. An actress who was at the time best known for her run in Baywatch, which that she recently left at the time.
Yeah, moving on to bigger and better things in this incredible role.
This incredible role that we'll definitely talk more about. But she is just kind of in the very early portion of the film, and then will reappear later. And here we get our first look at Tommy Lee Jones, whose outfit is amazing.
Oh, it's so good. And he's just, as you mentioned before when we were getting ready to talk about this, how much scenery chewing between him and Gary Busey goes on, but he is just like, he's all into this pseudo rock star blues musician, whatever character, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, for those who have not seen it, he's got this amazing getup. He's got these big aviator shades on. He's got this bandana wrapped around his head. He's got this leather jacket that's kind of studied in, I don't know, like faux diamonds. And it's just amazing. Oh, he's got a tie-dye t-shirt and everything. It's pure Woodstock, you know?
It feels like a dress rehearsal for how crazy he's going to get in Batman Forever.
Oh, yeah. No, it does very much feel like that. Because, obviously Tommy Lee Jones is most known for his kind of dialed down performances, like basically him, like it's Tommy Lee Jones often plays himself, like he does in Men in Black, that kind of deadpan, that thing. But like this in Batman Forever, he's just completely utterly off the chain. I love this as well. I watched a YouTube video that was an interview with Tommy Lee Jones at the time, and the interviewer asked him how much preparation he did for the role. And he, in the most deadpan way, just says, just learnt the words the night before.
Yes.
So really deep method went into this on Tommy Lee Jones's part.
No. He knew what kind of movie he was in.
I clearly, it was like, because I didn't realize, because I've not actually seen the film, so like I didn't realize he was in it. So he had just come off the back of JFK, the Oliver Stone movie, and so that's a weird transition. So I think he knew what kind of film he was in. I think probably he put his energy into JFK and then was like, I'm also doing this action picture. Fine, whatever. I'll read it. I'll read it before I need to get on set. Okay, cool.
And it worked out.
He did it fine. He absolutely nails the performance. So like, good on him. I think just as we get Tommy Lee Jones's entrance as well, we also kind of we cut back to the kitchen, and obviously regulations do actually exist on the ship, because like Commander Krill now comes down to the kitchen. He's very annoyed and he is a complete asshole. Gary Busey being a complete asshole. He spits in Seagal's soup, and then they threaten to throw him in the brig, and then Seagal is like, well, actually, only the captain can sign off on that, so you can't do that. So they decide to put him in the meat locker. But before they put him in the meat locker, there is a fun exchange where he pushes Commander Krill, and somebody says, "Oh, that's hitting an officer. That's an offense." And Seagal goes, "That's not hitting an officer. This is hitting an officer," and absolutely smashes Gary Busey in the face.
Yes, it's amazing. And then he pretty much takes apart most of Gary Busey's goons, and in a rare moment of generosity, or I don't know what you want to call it, peacemaking, he stops kind of at the last couple guys, and he's like, "Okay, come on."
After throwing like 3 guys around the kitchen, he's like, "Nah, okay, sure, okay, I'll go peacefully. I've proven my machismo and manliness to you. Now it's okay. I'll do what you say." And he gets stuck in a meat locker and guarded by a guy called Private Nash. We'll have more fun with Private Nash in a minute, because that character is an idiot.
Yes. Yeah, he is. Well, and it's briefly, we just get that Private Nash came with the food from Hawaii, so he doesn't know anything that's going on. So they just kind of tell him that Ryback is a bad guy, basically.
Yeah, that is true. I think Commander Krill refers to him as an extreme psychopath. Not just an ordinary garden variety psychopath, an extreme psychopath.
Which really, to any other person, would draw many more questions about why there's an extreme psychopath in our ranks. But not this guy. He's just, all right, I'll guard him.
Sure, I'll absolutely follow orders to the letter, even if they don't make sense and they're kind of weird.
We're looking at you, J.F. Lawton.
Yep. There is other things in the story that don't make a heck of a lot of sense, but we'll get to them. Anyway, we finally get to this surprise party. We're literally like we're not even at the kind of 20-minute mark yet.
It's a huge opening.
It's so much to talk about. So we get to this surprise party where Tommy Lee Jones is the leader of the band. They're playing away. There's much merriment on board, and then this is a point that they kind of reveal themselves as terrorists and overtake the ship. Tommy Lee Jones does this in quite a fun scene where he asks for the highest ranking officer to stand up and for there to be a spotlight on that highest ranking officer, who is a guy called Commander Green. And Commander Green is actually played by a guy called John Rottiger, who did stunts on the movie and was a real naval officer at the time and went on to work in Hollywood as doing stunt choreography and stuff like that.
Another key bit of realism.
Another key bit of authenticity that you totally don't pick up on unless you read about the background of the movie like I did. So there you go. So yes, Commander Green gets shot right in the head by Tommy Lee Jones. And at the exact same time, Gary Busey, who is at this time dressed in drag, he suddenly appeared in drag at the kind of concert party scene, and then went to the captain's cabin still dressed in drag, and he simultaneously shoots the captain, accompanied by a character called Doomer, who is played by Chief Miles O'Brien. No, he's played by Colin Meaney,
yes,
who is not come down from the Enterprise to star in this movie.
And who, is not really given enough to do, because he's a great actor.
Yeah, no, that character is, you definitely feel like that character is going to get more, and when you see him in that opening scene, and he has a couple of lines, and then he is the one who gives the killing blow. He shoots down the officer who's guarding the captain at the door and stuff like that, and shoots the captain again. You think he's going to be like the kind of number 3 villain, and they're going to be like a kind of little team: Gary Busey, Tommy Lee Jones, Colin Meaney. But no, Colin Meaney just kind of flits in and out, and his demise is disappointing. But we'll not get to that yet.
So we just should mention Gary Busey in drag is one of the greatest shocks of this entire film. It is not easy on the eyes.
No, it is not. And apparently, again, this is where the background research comes out king. Busey's decision. Apparently, that was all Busey. That was not in the script.
Oh wow!
That was all Busey, and apparently they shot the scene twice. One of him as just Commander Krill in his normal uniform, and one of them dressed up in drag with the cigar. And that was all his decision.
Wow.
So
I mean,
that's how that ended up in the movie.
It does make his character seem more insane, I guess, because it does. Even the people around him, it feels like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, and I mean, like, he's not good in drag. I mean, like, Wesley Snipes in Tu Wong Fu is more convincing in drag than Gary Busey is.
Yes. Yeah, it's moving on from Gary Busey and drag.
Yeah, moving on. We have a lot of fun chat while this is going on. While gunshots are going off and the ship has been overtaken, there's a lot of fun banter between Private Nash and Steven Seagal, who, in typical Steven Seagal fashion, is correct in his assessments, but goes about it in the most asshole-ish way. He calls Private Nash shit for brains twice. And,
yes.
you can see why Private Nash might react against this, but you still don't feel much sympathy for Private Nash because he is an idiot.
Yeah, he actually is a shit for brains. It's the one time Seagal's assholishness was like pretty on the money.
And also, there is this weird recurring thing in like the kind of, because this is all, they're kind of cutting back and forth from this. And yeah, like Seagal obviously senses that something is going wrong, that something is going on that is not right, and the captain is clearly unaware of this. But Seagal, because he has his priorities just right, not once but twice, he mentions his pies that he has in the oven. He's got these kind of cream pies in the oven, and he's very concerned about them being burnt. And if you've not seen the movie, they do get very badly burnt. The pies do not survive, unfortunately, which
sadly
Casey Ryback is very upset about.
Understandably, because also he tells Private Nash to take them out, and then as they're burning and it's like filling the kitchen with smoke, Private Nash acts like he's never heard this and is like, there's a fire, what's going on? I gotta go take the stuff out of the oven. Once again, shit for brains.
That's absolutely true. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Also, like last bit of Gary Busey in drag. He doesn't spend the whole movie in drag. It's just these kind of couple of scenes. But there is a kind of fun scene in the captain's cabin where he is reading the captain's file on himself,
Yes.
and the captain has recommended that he needs a psychological evaluation, and he's sitting there in drag. Like he had a wig on, a kind of Tina Turner wig, and he's taking the wig off by this stage, but he's still got the kind of netting on his hair to keep his hair down, and he's chewing a cigar frantically, and yeah, he's got these massive inflatable boobs, and he just kind of chewing on his cigar shouts, do I look like I need a psychological evaluation? Which is, it's very funny.
It's the payoff to that whole in drag sequence, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And then he gets out of drag straight after that. I mean, why Gary Busey made that decision, nobody knows. But then nobody can really tell what's going on with Gary Busey. To be fair, that's nice. He's an interesting man.
Yes, he is. So then we get then we're on to taking over the ship and finding out that these guys basically want these Tomahawk nuclear warheads, right?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. At that point, they've taken over the ship. We do get like a weird scene where directly after taking over the ship, Tommy Lee Jones is sitting in the captain's chair, and obviously all this taking over the ship has made him peckish, and he demands food. And then we get this weird scene of like they have like this big side of ham, and he just starts cutting the ham and like throwing it to his goons and just chewing into this ham. It's such a random moment.
The goons are just like taking a weird fistful of meat and biting into it like wild animals, which not that we needed that underline that they're like vicious killers.
But that's what happens. And then we get Private Nash again, still being an idiot. Apparently does not realize, I mean, like the way the scene is shot, how he does not realize that the gunman who creeps up on him is behind him. He gets real close to him. Like, you definitely would have sensed something. You would have felt, are they wearing like ninja shoes? Like, I don't know. I think I just guessed it was because Private Nash is an idiot and just had no spatial awareness whatsoever.
I think you're right. I also felt, though, like he's such a dumb character, they probably didn't need to kill him. Like, they could have just said, yeah, we're here to relieve you.
I mean, he did. There is, in the kind of overtaking scene, there is a scene in the kind of command control of the ship where he, like, phones up Commander Krill and being like, what's going on? We thought we heard gunshots. No, that wasn't gunshots. It was just party poppers. And Private Nash buys this hook, line, and sinker. So, yeah, I don't think they needed to shoot him because, the guy creeps up on him and then kind of orders him to, like, drop his weapon and, like, get down on the ground, as if they're going to just, like, tie him up or something, and then shoots him dead. And I was just like, what was it? Like, you could have just shot him dead when you creeped up on him. What was the whole facade of you, like, being like, oh, drop your weapon and, what was that bullshit? Like, what? Why did you do that? You were just going to kill him anyway. Makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, this is when we established that these terrorists are, they don't make any sense. And from here on out, they just fucking kill everyone with like 17 bullets. They're just going crazy trigger happy.
Yeah, they definitely are. So yeah, the terrorist guys, they also make the mistake of trying to go after Seagal, who is still currently locked up in the meat locker. They search the meat locker for him, but lo and behold, he's not in the meat locker. Where has he disappeared to? He's in a vent, and he jumps down and beats those guys up. and locks them in the meat locker, and which they manage to shoot their way out of, but then they get killed 2 seconds later by Van Damme.
That's how it
Van
goes.
Damme? Seagal. Sorry. Wrong action star. They get.
It's understandable.
So yeah, because he picks one up and it looks like he breaks his back and neck at the same time. Just there's lots of cracking going on.
Yes. And then we get the awesome part, because we already know it's Seagal, man. But this is the moment where he grabs a mug, pours some vinegar or something in it, put some steel wool in there, put something else in there. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, he does some MacGyver shit here. Yeah.
Yeah. Throws it in a microwave. We know that's some kind of explosive. And then, he's off to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And then, that doesn't get paid off for a little while, but it gets paid off well just down the road. And also we get, just not long after this, we get a fantastic bit of acting from Steven Seagal as he sees the dead body of the captain after escaping from the galley.
Oh yes,
he sees the dead body of the captain, and he takes the captain's jacket, his ceremonial jacket, his whites, and he places it over him. And then there's just this kind of zoom shot onto his face, and he tries to crack some emotion on his face, which doesn't quite happen, but you can tell that he's really trying to convey something that's just not coming through.
That shot killed me. He just kind of tenses his face, trying to find some anger or grief, and doesn't. And we're just all right, we get it.
He
now.
just has this kind of weird constipated face of just. Oh, it's so good.
It's amazing.
Oh dear. And then we get Tara celebrating, saying we got a cool bit of Jimi Hendrix. We got a bit of Voodoo Child. That's pretty cool. We get that. That's nice. And they're all celebrating. They shoot down a plane, and then this is where we cut to the control room, the kind of command center elsewhere. Where we get the introduction of the CIA agent Tom Breaker,
who is in deep kimchi.
He is in deep kimchi, and as I found out, this is quite interesting. I didn't know this until I was reading the Seagalology book. Actually, the actor who played Tom Breaker is Nick Mancuso, who is the actor who played the voice on the end of the phone in Black Christmas. Fun fact, horror fans.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Was he a producer too? Or I think I'm getting confused with Frank Mancuso, who's a producer of the Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah, I think you are. Yeah.
I got really excited.
Yeah, I know. I know you're talking about that. Yeah, he's in the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, and I saw him. But no, different guy. I don't know. I just know that fun fact about him. I don't know any of his other roles. Sorry, Mr. Mancuso. Well, I do actually know that Tom Breaker returns in Under Siege 2, so we will be talking about him again.
Right. Nice.
And guess what, people? Yes, basically, Tom Breaker is the man who hired Tommy Lee Jones's character, who I don't think we stated his character name is William Stranix, who is a complete psychopath, and true to form in Under Siege 2, sorry, spoilers again, he is also hired a complete psychopath who goes wrong and acts against the government. So, yes, they've stayed very much true to formula in this franchise. I'd love there to be an Under Siege 3 where Tom Breaker is still somehow employed by the CIA and is still all these kind of rogue agents that he's created.
I want an Under Siege 3 that's just dealing with the CIA's human resources department. You guys aren't hiring the right people. We need to work on this.
Yes. But he does get remonstrated from this by the various gathered company, which includes Captain Garza and is led by a guy called Admiral Bates, who they do ask the same questions the audience would ask of, like, why did you hire this guy? What was the point of this? If you knew you couldn't control him, like, what were you doing exactly?
Yes. Well, and we get that awesome bit of backstory that Tommy Lee Jones had. There was some sort of like botched political assassination, and then they were going to kill him as well. And he has survived, and that's part of his motivation, I guess.
That is true. Yes, apparently Operation Cleopatra. That's what it was called. Operation Cleopatra. It fell apart. It all blew up in their faces, and that led to the attempted assassination of William Stranix, and he wasn't having none of that shit. And then, this is just a glorious scene, because we have this kind of fun back and forth between Tom Baker and William Stranix, and Tommy Lee Jones just starts rambling about the end of the world, about STDs, about deforestation, and they're all just like listening, like, what, and it turns out it's a complete ploy to make them think that A, he's lost his mind, and B, he wants to start some kind of mad, environmentalist hippie revolution, when actually he just wants a big fat payday. Yeah, but it's just a brilliant piece of acting. I really enjoyed the hell out of.
It's like maybe one of his. I mean, he's great in the whole movie, but it's kind of like his biggest moment, his greatest moment.
Yeah, because it seems. I think the cool thing about it is, like, it doesn't seem like he's reading lines. It seems like he's just kind of riffing, and just it seems kind of natural and fluid, and just the way he's it just seems like all these different thoughts are coming into his head, and it seems kind of random and scrambled, and it really makes a convincing case of a crazy man.
Yes, and it's kind of amazing that they take him seriously at all. This is clearly a weird terrorist kind of heist. There's no revolution.
Yeah, that is the one thing in the scene that I was like, can they not hear that? Because, like, they don't try and cover the microphone at any point, and there's a bunch of times when they cut back to Colm Meaney and Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones, they're just like sniggering, and you're like, every time he makes some like weird revolutionary proclamation, they just go and I'm like, the microphone didn't pick that up at all. I mean, they're laughing quite loudly, like,
Once again, Tom Baker lets us down.
Yeah, Tom Baker, you suck, Tom Baker. You really do. Like, all you do in this movie is smoke and look mean. That's all you do, and make excuses about your terrible record of hiring psychopaths. Oh, all right, yeah, and now we get to the real introduction of everybody's favorite character, Jordan Tate, as played by Erika Eleniak, who, god damn it, I mean, she, like, the character really adds nothing much to the movie. Her main role is complaining, crying, and putting everybody in danger recklessly.
She's like this weird, attractive, short round character.
Yes, like,
but I like short round better.
Yes, indeed. If you thought Indiana Jones's sidekicks in the Temple of Doom were annoying, well, you ain't.
Yeah, she's. When you say that, it's like she's a combo of short round and I can't remember the woman's name, but yeah.
Is it not
Billy? Well, her character.
Yes. There's a character. Yes, she is kind of like a combination, because that is like, every time I watch this movie, I think about, like, oh man, I always think those characters are so annoying in Temple of Doom, but compared to Jordan Tate, they're they're fine. They're just they don't seem to be quite such a drag on Indy as she is on Casey Ryback. Yep. So yeah, she was apparently hired as a stripper for the celebration surprise party. She bursts out a cake, and again is another character with no spatial awareness, because doesn't hear that there's no cheers, is completely unaware of the carnage in the room. And then only becomes aware of things when Casey Ryback points a gun straight in her face. Because at that point, our hero believes she is one of the terrorists, even though that is incredibly unlikely.
Yeah. She's also, the terrorists, as savvy as they are, forgot about Casey Ryback in the freezer. Well, they sent people to get him, but they kind of forget about him. But they left her in this collapsible cake asleep and just forgot about it. Not that she's a great threat, but they've overlooked a couple things.
That is true. Although they did, they did go out of their way to neutralize her because Commander Krill, under the guise of giving her anti-nausea pills because she got sick on the airplane, gave her sleeping pills to put her under. Which seems kind of unnecessary. They could have just taken her hostage like everybody else. It's not like she would have, not caused any issue. Well, that's certainly before she was trained by Casey Ryback in 20 minutes.
Yeah. You would think they would want to take her hostage, but nope.
No, apparently not. Just left alone to sleep in a cake. Yep. And then Casey, after grilling her about the potential of her being a terrorist, which she's very much not, is then convinced that she's not a terrorist, and then reassures her by telling her that he is just a cook. Because she says, what are you, kind of some sort of special forces guy or something? Nope, I'm just a cook.
Too much to her chagrin. And then we get, in his wisdom, at least at first, like the terrorist, he just wants to stuff her in a locker until this is all over.
That is true. But in what will become classic Jordan fashion, she screams and moans about this and bangs on the locker, even though this could lead to both their deaths. And she apparently just hates being alone and can't stand it, so just doesn't want to be left alone. So she's got to come. We also, at this same stage, we also get a very good gag where we cut back to the control room with Tom Breaker and Admiral Bates and all that. And Tom Breaker is being grilled on a mission that William Stranix had pulled off, where he had to sink a North Korean sub. And he is asked directly, do we definitely know that Stranix sunk this sub? Breaker reassures him that yes, 100% he definitely sunk that sub. And then the very next shot is the shot of that very same sub coming towards the battleship to pick up the Tomahawk missiles that they are planning to steal.
And somehow Breaker isn't getting fired by the end of this movie.
He makes it to the next film. He is still employed by the CIA in the next film. I do not know why.
Well, I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm just like, that's actually very real. That's the most realism right there.
Yes. Also in this scene, we get an insight into Stranix's somewhat weird obsession with the Looney Tunes, because the guy he is in contact with on the sub, his code name is Wile Coyote, and Stranix's code name is Roadrunner, because like the Roadrunner, he's never been caught, as he explains.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and because you just have to have cool code names.
Oh yeah, you do have to have cool code names, and it's just been influences by this mad rogue ex-CIA operative's love of the Looney Tunes.
Yes, indeed. And we also get in here a whole bunch of work around the ship as they're preparing basically some kind of ramps so they can move these warheads to the sub. There's a whole lot of welding going on.
There is a whole lot of welding going on. And just after this is the big moment, the moment we've all been waiting for, where we get a payoff of that microwave bomb. Oh, it's so good. Good.
That was my favorite part because they come into this kitchen looking for Casey Ryback, realize he's escaped, and some of their men are dead. And the explosion only happens when the microwave stops, even though ostensibly, an explosion would result from heat, and this thing has been running for at least like 20 minutes.
Yes, at least 20 minutes for sure. And again, like a lot of things in this movie, it's got, I mean, the comic timing in this movie is very good. Because like we've just been reassured by Commander Krill. Yes, Gary Busey's character has just reassured us that he's 100% definitely a cook. And if this movie has taught us anything, as soon as somebody has said 100% this thing has happened, then the very opposite is true. And then the microwave bomb goes off. And then we get the classic moment that we have to get in all of Steven Seagal's movies, where we learn extensively what a badass Steven Seagal is, because Gary Busey finds Casey Ryback's file in the captain's private files, not in the regular kind of files, but in his private cabinets. And we find out that he was a Navy SEAL. He won a Silver Star. He's, killed whole nations, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then they got some bad intel on a mission in Panama, and his men were killed. And then he punched out the guy in charge of that mission. They gave him the bad intel. And then instead of being like court-martialed, he was given the option of being either a yeoman or a cook. And he decided to become a cook. And that's how he ended up on this vessel.
Awesome. Yeah. That's probably the best writing of the whole movie.
It is good. When you get the whole big spiel about, what? The Casey Ryback? Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. And then suddenly everyone knows about him.
Oh, yeah, because apparently in the control room, while most of them don't know about the magnificentness of Casey Ryback, one of the characters, Captain Garza, had worked with Casey Ryback, and gives a big kind of like, Chief Ryback, I know Chief Ryback, because there is much debate to whether Casey Ryback is one of the terrorists. Debate really led by Tom Baker, who just wants to paint, just wants to save his own skin, paint everybody as a terrorist. And Captain Garza states emphatically that no, Chief Ryback is definitely one of the good guys.
That's one of my favorite lines, because that ends the conversation. There's no but why is he a good guy? We don't need evidence. No, he is a good guy.
No, I mean, Captain Garza's word is obviously worth its weight in gold. There's no greater prize than Captain Garza's word. It's right up there. So, it's all said and done once he's said it, obviously. Yeah. Well, we do get some more, but just before that, I should mention as well, because I'm sure you'll be delighted to hear, we get more irritating banter from Jordan. She is carrying a bunch of stuff, and she complains a lot about that. And Stephen, Ryback being a sarcastic asshole that he is, was like, "Hey, don't you support women's lib?"
Yeah, what a line. And she's also I don't know why it sticks out for me, but she's kind of got some tactical gear going on. She's carrying that stuff. She's got some new clothes, and she's got a weird backwards cap that just makes her look like a little 13-year-old boy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's so weird.
It is weird. It is weird. At this point, before Ryback phones into the control office that gets the conversation where Captain Garza reassures us that Chief Ryback is one of the good guys. He explains what a satellite phone is to Jordan, and she says, like a car phone. Ryback sarcastically replies, like a car phone. Something, again, there's a couple of weird random callbacks in this movie. Both of them come from scenes right in this part of the movie, because another bit is like Jordan says that she has two rules: she doesn't date musicians and she doesn't kill people. And you wouldn't think the car phone thing or that thing would have callbacks to them. You'd be wrong. You just wait for it. It's also at this point that the penny drops that Casey might not be just a cook, and she quizzes him about this, and he's like, "No, you're not just a cook, are you?" And Seagal's, I love Seagal's comeback here, where he's just like, "Yeah, well, I also cook."
I mean, he's humble. He's always humble.
If Seagal's known for anything. Yes. At this point, many people about this film had said that it is Die Hard on a boat, and that is pretty much true. It is pretty much Die Hard on a battleship. I would say that it is the finest of all the Die Hard ripoffs, of which there are many. But just to kind of highlight the fact that it is a Die Hard ripoff, we have the kind of Die Hard spot here, where like there's Ryback jumps off with the rope, and there's an explosion, and he hits the side of the ship, much like John McClane hits the side of the building with the explosion in Die Hard, the original Die Hard.
Yeah, it's almost like beat for beat the same little action sequence, which is pretty. It's well done and it's great. But yeah, you're just like, whoa, that's right from Die Hard. But that's fine, whatever.
Yeah. I suppose we should explain it. Like blows up a helicopter, and then
yes,
and then he jumps off the ship with a rope, and then he smashes his face into the side of the ship, and has to climb back up. And Jordan manages to get herself briefly captured, and Ryback has to save her. Again, she's just getting into trouble. She's just like, well, we got to have more conflict here. Yeah,
do something stupid.
So at this point, Stranix is pretty upset about the general mayhem and trouble that Ryback is causing him, and Commander Krill comes up with a magic plan to root him out, which is to basically, we've already established that they have taken most of the crew hostage. They are in the kind of bowels of the ship somewhere, and they're going to drown the crew. That is Commander Krill's plan. They are going to drown the crew with the fire sprinkler system, and this will draw Ryback out, because he will naturally, his hero instinct will kick in, and he will naturally go towards them and have to save them.
Exactly, and it is it fits right in there with his psychopathy. It is like a kind of a pretty extreme move.
It is indeed. Like you say, it fits in quite well with his kind of manic, psychopathic persona. And Stranix even comments on this and says the line, "You're a maniac, drown your own crew."
Yes. To which he replies, "They never liked me anyways," basically.
That is right. But Ryback has a plan of his own, as he manages to break out some other crew members who, for some reason, are locked in another room. There's like half a dozen of them that are just locked in another room, which includes our old pal Ramirez, Raymond Cruz, back in the picture, and also includes Tackman, who we did see earlier on in the kitchen as well, played by a guy called Damian Chapa, who would go on to play Ken in the Street Fighter movie. So, like, great career, Mr. Chapa.
And he's in love with what's her name?
Yes, Miss July 1989, because that's the only thing he knows her as.
Well, and that never comes back. That's kind of like, seems like a setup that maybe those two will fall in love or whatever. But no, sorry, buddy.
It is kind of semi-suggested that they will hang out for the rest of the movie, or there'd be something there, because there is this kind of setup earlier on, like when she is coming down in the helicopter. There's like they're watching the video of that happening live, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna marry that girl," like that, and yeah, and then they kind of reunite here. Well, we don't reunite here. Like he sees her again here, and he's all kind of tongue twisted and all kind of and it does seem like to be set up there for there to be some sort of romance, but no, that does not come together at all. What does come together is like we've mentioned.
Nope, and they seem like they would be a more age-appropriate match.
That is true.
We get later, but
that is true, because as we've said, because so Seagal would be like 40 when this movie came out, something like that. So is there a romance with Seagal? Who knows? It really isn't explained or done well at all, but we will get to that much later. But what we get to now is apparently in the whole 20 minutes that Ryback has been kicking it about with Jordan, she suddenly turns into Rambo because Tackman asks her how to load this semi-automatic weapon, and she just knows that shit now. She's got it down pat. And in this scene as well, talking about Tackman, he's not keen on doing this mission to get the rest of the crew out of the hall or wherever they are. And he's very nervous about it. And this is where we get Ryback saying that the Navy, it's not a job, it's an adventure, which apparently was paraphrasing a real slogan that the US Navy used around that time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I picked up on that. I don't know if they use it anymore, but yeah. Straight out of a recruitment ad, apparently, which is weird.
So yeah, like you said, it kind of seems like a kind of weird promotional line to include from the Navy. But one of the things about the film that I did read in the kind of little bit of background research that I did was the reason they were allowed to kind of film on the USS Missouri and the USS Alabama was that the Navy were kind of hoping that it would offer like a bump in recruitment numbers in the same way that Top Gun had done a bump in recruitment numbers for the Air Force.
Which is awesome. I'm sure there was a bunch of people just going, yeah, I want to be a cook on a naval battleship now.
Yes, the classic tale of a cook with a mysterious Navy SEAL background.
That's the action movie I want to write. No, he is just a cook. He just saw that movie and thought he was going to fight terrorism, but he's just a cook. Yeah.
That is one of the things that the movie really could have lent into more. Like they have the microwave bomb, but they could have had more kind of chef-based attacks in the movie.
Yeah, it seems like they would, because he has that moment where he throws the knife into the board, and then we've got a couple knife fights, but you kind of would have expected a few more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And one of the knife fights is just coming up in a minute. But so they go off to try and save the crew. Jordan once again tries to recklessly endanger everyone, where they're all kind of ducking down, being kind of stealthy, and Ryback runs ahead, and she just runs after him like a complete idiot and justifies it by saying the safest place on this boat is just behind you.
And she is right, though. She's right in
that.
She knows she's in a Seagal film, so she's like, if I am right next to him, I can't die.
That is a fair point. That is maybe one moment of genuine awareness that she has in the movie.
This is also one of the It's a great action moment with Seagal wielding dual submachine guns and kind of crisscross firing them pretty heedlessly, too. He's just kind of running through a long corridor of open doors, and he is, again, just supremely competent.
that is true. Is this the most reckless we've seen him be so far? We did have, so like in Marked for Death, we had him shooting blindly at a hooker. In Out for Justice, we had him confidently shooting round a corner with no knowledge that there was anybody there or that they were bad guys, but just knew telepathically that that's what was going on. So he would definitely hit a bad guy and not anybody wandering around. So it's just the most reckless he's been so far.
Yeah, and there's just no. It's fine. It's a great moment. he's in no danger of getting shot.
It's good. It's good because we get a bunch of fun kind of action sequences in this moment in this kind of couple of scenes, because this is kind of where he fights a bunch of henchmen as well. One of them is completely crushed by one of the railings that they are setting up to put the tomahawks on and put them onto the submarine. One is kind of thrown off a stairwell and ends up tangled up in a bunch of ropes. And then, that's when he like bursts into another room and then he fights off a couple of other guys. We have some knife action. We have a guy who is thrown into a buzzsaw, which is actually slightly edited in the DVD version I've got here. Yeah, the BBFC cut that slightly. So basically you just see the guy being pushed and you hear the kind of buzzsaw noise, and you kind of, so you can place two and two together, but you don't see him like place him into the saw like you do in the uncut version.
Yeah, I saw his shoulder go into that saw, and I was like,
Yeah, you don't see that. You don't see that in the 15 rated. Damn you, BBFC. The 15 rated DVD edition in the UK does not have that. But in the uncut R-rated edition, you can see a man's shoulder being obliterated by a circular saw.
That's also a moment where I wasn't sure why he entered in this knife fight, though, because they all have guns, but he kind of just was like, I'm going to take these guys on with this knife.
That is a fair point. Yeah. They roll with that, and they're just like, we want to show off our martial arts skills, too. Oh, we lost. Sorry. That's bad.
It's all for the better.
Yep. And then we had previously seen one of Ryback's team fuck about with some wires, and apparently that kind of cuts the power. The power is down. The bad guys no longer have full control of the ship and the weaponry and all that, much to the annoyance of Stranix, who at the time is haggling prices with a French guy, and but eventually just gets fed up with that and passes the phone on to Doomer, Chief O'Brien. He's and he has to deal with, and he's kind of crossed up in telephones. They really don't. Colm Meaney doesn't get enough in this movie. He could have. They could have just gotten rid of. Yeah, he could have played a bigger role, or they could have got rid of him and Tommy Lee Jones or Gary Busey. Too many villains. Yes, that is true. And then, like, we get the cavalry is coming. You know, like there's been this much talked up SEAL team that is coming to save the day, to help out Ryback, and but Stranix has them blown up. By like at this point, like they've lost control of the ship's weaponry, but they've brought along rocket launchers with them, so that's how they take that plane out. And then it's just Ryback to save the day, and the potential that our Tom Breaker and his team are just going to blow the entire ship up. Yes, that is true. Yes, we have. That's their kind of big plan.
A brilliant plan.
Yeah. It's an excellent plan. I do also like there's a fun scene when Stranix and that like discovers the guy and Doomer discover the guy tangled up in ropes and that, and Tommy Lee Jones goes, "Why didn't you just hire this person?" Like,
Oh yes.
I don't know what its price was, but it definitely would have been worth it.
It's nice to see that. It was nice to see a villain who was just like, yeah, this was shit. We should have just paid this person.
Yeah, no, like it's just been so annoyed by him the whole film, and he's just slowly garnered an appreciation for him. I've been like, you know what, he does good work, you know. Like we should have made him join our side. Like that's what we should have done. Oh dear. But yeah, and now like we've had our kind of Die Hard moment. We've already had our Die Hard moment, and now Seagal gets to be James Bond as well. Because like we have a very Bondish moment where he climbs down an anchor in a diving suit
Yes.
and he swims towards the submarine, the North Korean submarine, which has arrived at the ship by this stage, and he plants like a bomb in the submarine, and then there's this. He gets spotted by Col Meany, who's the only person with eyes. Because he's not that stealthy, but like he's just in the water, you know, you can see him, you know, but the rest of the naval crew, not a clue, not a clue at all. But Col Meany, he's on the ball. He knows what's going on, and he spots him in the water. And then, like talking about random blind shooting, there is much random blind shooting in the water. Of being like, is he there? It looked like it could be like anywhere in the water. Let's just shoot it all the water in front of us, and maybe it would be there.
It's kind of amazing.
Yes, it is. It is pretty fun. It is pretty fun. And then there's a guy with a grappling hook. Throws a grappling hook in the water, and that does actually all the bullets miss Seagal, but the grappling hook gets him. The grappling hook cuts him open a bit. Like he has some like lacerations on his back, as we see when he climbs back on board the ship. But he, with like kind of Wolverine type abilities, manages to completely recover from those wounds, like basically by the next scene, because they're not mentioned again, and he never makes any indication that he is wounded from those deep bloody wounds that we saw from this grappling hook.
Wounds so bad that Jordan is like crying, like he's going to die or something.
That is true. And in one of the most disappointing moments of the film, Col Meany, Doomer, who is essentially the number 3 villain and has been portrayed as a bit of a badass throughout the movie. He's a killer, you know? He is an assassin. He knows what is going on. He gets shot in the back by Jordan, of all the characters to be taken out by. Oh, Jesus.
And that is a very that is maybe one of the weakest moments in all of this. You know, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff, but it is the moment where Steven Seagal is in the most danger, and the weakest, worst character saves his ass.
Yep. Oh, it's very disheartening. Anyway, we get some more Gary Busey madness. So, like, basically the submarine has been all a bit fucked up, and there is an Italian engineer working on it, swearing merrily in Italian. Kind of basically can't do anything about it. And then, Commander Krill is he has a plan to sort it out, to repair it, and shouts at the Italian engineer and basically berates him for not being able to speak English. Right back at the start of the movie, we saw Commander Krill being homophobic. Here, he's xenophobic. I mean, we've already established he's an asshole, but, we're just adding extra layers.
Need to get that in there. We might have come around to his side at this point in the film.
Oh yeah, at this point, after seeing him trying to drown the crew, I was like, maybe he has a point. He was ostracized by them. He's just getting revenge on the bullies. No, wait a second, no, nobody likes Commander Krill. And then again, some of this is kind of weird because Ryback's kind of mini team that he's got, which includes a kind of old vet guy, is they kind of wander around the ship relatively consequence free. This ship that has been, the whole crew's been taken hostage apart from this small group, and there's heavily armed guards, goons everywhere, and yet all the parts of the ship that they go to are pretty goon free, and they can kind of go about their business easily enough. And basically we get a fun little mini montage of the loading the kind of old school cannons that they have on the boat, which again they do without any interruption because the plot says so.
Well, yeah, and it seemed to me that there was some weird kind of logic in that they've disabled some of the power, and so that is why they can now run around free, which doesn't make sense. But
yes, apparently, yeah, so they can't kind of track where they are on the ship or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey,
so yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. Yeah.
we get that big gun working and we can blast that submarine.
We can blow up that submarine. And basically, this is quite a fun. Again, this is a really fun scene though, because basically, Commander Krill's plan does work, and they do fix the thing that was preventing them from going underwater. And he thinks that they've got away. Basically, they fire the cannon once at them. Commander Krill, again, slightly overconfident, just like he was overconfident that Casey Ryback was just a cook. He was also overconfident that they don't have actual missiles hitting them. It's not going to cause them any damage or danger. Of course, they fire the first shot and they realize, actually, no, this could cause us damage and danger. We need to get underwater as soon as possible. But the first shot kind of scrapes by them and they need to reload. And again, Commander Krill, still overconfident, thinks that they've got plenty of time to deep dive before the second shot is put in. But no, Ryback wins battleship and blows up the North Korean submarine. And we get a great reaction shot from Commander Krill just before he dies, where his face realizes, fuck, I'm going to die. I thought you were going to fall on from that, Kyle.
I got nothing.
You got nothing. You're not. Gary Busey's reaction shot was of such great power that you just couldn't follow that.
There's nothing you can say.
Well, it manages to shock all the characters because it just breaks Stranitz's goddamn mind. He goes into a tailspin. He's running about. He's fucking shit up. He's bullying his tech guy who's been beavering away. Once the tech guy starts getting things back online again, he's like, I'm going to be firing these missiles, and then he does he kind of sings along to the Star Spangled Banner in a kind of Woodstock style again.
Yeah, he loses his mind there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we get the call back to the car phone, where Jordan has to take a message for Ryback on the satellite phone. Words he actually says, I need to take a message. He's busy, to the Admiral, and yeah, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, the car phone. Um, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why they
Yeah.
like planted that joke and had a call back to that joke, because it wasn't like, of the jokes in the movie, not a strong one, but
No, not even
oh
necessarily a joke.
no, not even necessarily a joke. No, I think like the script thinks it's a joke though. Like I feel
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the car phone line, it feels like it's done in such a way that there's a kind of pause as if for laughter kind of thing, you know. So I think Mr. JF Lonan thought the car phone bit was good. Oh, we missed the other callback after Jordan kills Doomer. As you will remember, she has two rules in
Oh
life.
yes.
She doesn't kill
Yeah.
people. She doesn't date musicians. And Seagal doesn't have a lot of one-liners in this movie, but he, like, as he's kind of half dead with his grappling
Yes.
hook injuries, which are really playing up at the time, but the next scene are not giving him any bother. He says, "Oh, the next thing I know, you'll be dating musicians." um,
Uh,
so two great callbacks right there, back to back. Very good. The wonderful script writing of Mr. J.F. Lund.
those are like the two and only big callbacks.
Yep. I don't know why those are the callbacks, but they are. That's
There you go.
yeah, this was also disappointing. Where, like, sadly, we've not actually talked about him. But of the villains, so like basically we've got number one villain Stranix, we've got number two villain Commander Krill, played by Gary Busey, we got number three villain Doomer, played by Colm Meaney, and then we've got a kind of number four chief henchman guy who's
Yes.
called Shadow, who's played by Eddie Bo Smith Jr., and he's like this massive,
Yeah.
but just hulk of a guy. He's muscled up. He's of a similar size. Like he's bigger and more muscular than Seagal, and he's about the same height as Seagal. He must be 6'4", 6'5", you know. And it's kind of, there's this kind of indication throughout the movie that there might be like this like a showdown with those two, you know, and we might get to see them fight hand to hand, you know, and really get down to it. And then in the second most disappointing death in the movie, he just gets shot by Seagal from distance, and just gets shot, and he gets shot in a way that he kind of gets shot like in the shoulder and collapses to the ground, and you kind of think, aha, he will come back from that, and like, oh my god, he's still alive, you know, and there'll be that scene where it's like, oh my god, this monstrous guy, you know, like a bullet to the shoulder, can't, no, that doesn't happen at all. It's kind of weird. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, he's dead.
It's really a waste because he seems so formidable and he's such a presence, even though he doesn't have that many lines. You're just like, oh, that guy is intense. This is going to be good. But no.
And like, yeah, I mean, like every time I watch this movie, I kind of always think of like, oh man, like, yeah, I've seen this movie so many times, and I still kind of always half believe that Shadow, you know, like, you know, Shadow does something more, and he really doesn't. Like, and like you say, he really build him up as this kind of hulking presence, and he's one of the guys who early on in the movie takes the handful of meat and just tears into it like a wolf, you know, and all this kind of thing, and he's just pure menace throughout the film, and then he just dies in this kind of simpering way, and it's a kind of wound that you just assume that he'll come back from, because he just kind of, it's shot in the distance, and then he just kind of drops down, and it's like, oh well, I've seen this in a bunch of action movies where the super hard henchman, like, it looks like he's dead, or it looks like he's badly wounded, but like he comes back like a horror villain, and but no, that's the end of Shadow.
I feel like Seagal knew he wasn't going to look good against that guy.
No,
that guy's a real
I
threat.
think you're right. I think you're right because like they are of similar heights, and this guy's like way broader, way more muscular and bulky than Seagal is. So like side by side, Seagal might not look the best by comparison. So. Yeah, as a producer on the movie, yeah, maybe that's a Seagal decision of being like, no, I am not going head to head with this guy. There's not going to be a face off with this guy.
And we're calling back to the car phone joke.
Yeah, it's all about the car phone joke and dating musicians. So we're pretty much at the end, folks. We've just got the final battle. The final battle with Stranix. And this final battle is a little bit weird because we get basically Ryback goes into the main control room of the ship, and Stranix, because he's a super agent himself, he manages to get the drop on him. He manages to hide away, get the drop on him. And has him at gunpoint, and then we have like this weird scene where it's implied that they know each other.
Yes, which you wish was expounded upon, because it's kind of just like, oh, I know you, and then they don't explain at all how they know each other. Just launch into the classic villain explaining a bit of his plan.
Yes, so. I'm always confused by this scene because I'm like, so they don't know each other by name? So, like, they just seen each other during a mission or something, but were never formally introduced? Did he not, when Krill, like, brought the file, did he not look at a picture of him? Like, I'm like, what? How? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they were. I don't know. I can't think of anything even funny.
No,
but
it
really does also seem like I want to know more. But they could have done a little bit more with that had they delved into that. They could have played up the. I don't know.
Yes, these are two guys that are two sides of the same coin kind of thing, which is. I mean, like, again, this feels like a kind of Seagal moment. This happens in a bunch of Seagal movies because it's, like in Mark for Death as well. Screwface has a bit of a speech where they're like, we're the same. We're this, like. So, yeah. And then the next moment definitely feels like a Seagal moment where he starts going on this rambly speech about how him, Ryback, and Stranix are just two puppets in the same sick play, and they have the same master, and he is a lunatic, and he is ungrateful.
That's the greatest speech before you kill a guy, because he basically is just saying, we shouldn't be doing this to each other. He's justifying why he shouldn't even get involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then he just does just exactly that. And Stanix basically agrees. Basically says like, yep, we're the same guy. We're being controlled by the same people. We're just being shoved around. We are puppets, but I'm going to try and fight you to the death anyway. Because apparently the big difference is Ryback has faith in the institutions and Stranix doesn't, and that is an ideological point worth fighting for to the death.
We're dying for it.
Yeah.
And we get a pretty damn good death.
We do. Because, like, unlike a lot of Steven Seagal movies, they do put quite a lot of effort into making Stranix seem like a badass. Like, much as we get the kind of Ryback background dump where it's like, this guy's a total badass. He's like the best guy the Navy SEALs has ever seen kind of thing. Like, we do get a similar kind of style thing with Stranix. And obviously, like, going toe-to-toe, Tommy Lee Jones does not look as imposing as Seagal, but they make a good job of being like, this guy is a guy not to be messed with. And even though Seagal has the upper hand in the knife fight for pretty much all of the knife fight, it is even-ish for a second.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more even than a lot of other Seagal finales.
Yes, he's not completely, unlike the last episode, where Richie was completely obliterated by a guy with a bullet wound in his stomach. This time, he actually makes a semi-fight of it, even though, obviously, Seagal overcomes him relatively quickly. And in a great moment, which again, damn you BBFC, is slightly cut in the 15 rated UK DVD edition. Ryback catches Strannik's knife between his teeth and then gouges his eye. This is what's kind of slightly cut. You see the thumb going into the eye, but you don't see the shot of the bloody eye. And then he gets like a knife directly in the dome, and then that is the end of Strannik.
Well, and then he gets his head slammed into that radar machine.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that is right. He after he gets the knife in the head, he gets his head slammed into the radar machine. And in another one-liner, again, he doesn't get many in this movie. He says, "Keep the faith, Strannik's."
Priceless.
Good times. Good time. I actually like, because he like really, I've missed that line so many times because he really mumbles it, and like even today I like rewound. I rewound it a bit to be like, what's he say again? And I was like, I listened more closely. I was like, oh right, keep the faith. I see, because he made that comment. But
he does that a lot, because that happened to me in Marked for Death when he kills Screwface, and he says something about like, I hope there weren't triplets.
I hope there weren't triplets. Yeah, he does kind of like, sometimes he like mumbles one-liners, and you're like, what? I'm sure that was badass, but can you say it again, Steve?
Can you hear
it? Because he really does. He really does go kind of, "Keep the faith, Jennings." And you're, what was
like, huh?
What was that? Was that the best take we can?
And,
yep.
And he's like, yeah, print it. That's good.
Yep. And that's the end. Oh well, actually there's a bit after that.
There's some nuclear warheads we've got to disable.
There's some nuclear warheads that we've got to disable. We basically quickly disable them. One of the Tomahawks, the Tomahawks are now heading to Honolulu. Strannik has fired them off to Honolulu after the tech guy got the weapon systems back up online during his complete meltdown singing the US anthem. And they're flying to Honolulu. The military manages to blow up one. They do not manage to blow up the other. And basically, Ryback has to type in some codes for it to get the old self-auto-destruct. And that happens pretty quickly. There's not a lot of tension in that scene. It's just basically like he puts a card in a machine, he types in some numbers, boom, Honolulu is saved. Yay! And the control room goes wild, apart from Tom Breaker, who's very worried about his job.
Yes. And Seagal has some weird banter with his comrades about they should all go swimming now or something.
Yes. It's like he starts, and he thinks it's hilarious. He just goes on about like, let's all go out for a swim, and then they all seem to kind of awkwardly laugh along, as if to just kind of be like, yeah, Ryback, yeah, okay, cool, you saved us, so I suppose we'll go along with this. Yeah, okay.
And then we get our fancy final ceremony on the ship.
That is true. So, the whole crew is now free from the hull and all that, and they're basically celebrating with Ryback. And in the third and final callback of the movie, back to the dance off that we saw earlier on in the movie, Cue Ball, who we saw in that dance off, who was having that dance off with Ramirez, he kind of taunts Ryback to show off his moves, and then Ryback goes, "Hey, how about this move?" and kisses Jordan
Oh,
in a way that is very sexually harassy,
dude.
and but apparently they're a couple now.
It's so awkward, right? Yeah, that moment sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, there's been no sense of romance or any sort of sexual tension between these characters, but now they are obviously together, apparently.
And it seems like their relationship up to this point was uh, brother, sister, I don't know what, but they look
Yeah,
very I don't know what the actual age difference is, but she looks just very, very young besides Seagal.
yeah. So as we've established, Seagal would have been about 40 when this
Okay.
film was made, and we can
It's
through the magic of the internet we can look this up right now, folks. So
perfect. I'm
Erika
guessing it's like 20 years.
Erika Eleniak was born in 1969.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Okay.
yeah, so she would have been um, about 23 when this movie was made. And Steven Seagal, yes, he was born in 1952, so I was correct. He would have been 40. So the age difference there would be 17 years.
Yeah. It's not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all. Whereas,
Well, yeah, and the other
where,
guy,
Whereas
Dame.
Damien Chapa was born in 1963, which would make it
Yeah.
an entirely more age-appropriate relationship of him being just 6 years older than her. But
And we're not trying to be ageist.
no, we're interested to be ages. It's just like it just looks like it.
It
It's
looks
not just
weird.
the age thing. It's not just the age thing. It's just creepy the way it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's creepy the way how kind of.
Yeah. It's charged. It's very charged from Seagal's end.
Yes, it's just the way he kind of, grabs the back of her neck and just thrusts her for this kiss, and she apparently accepts it. But you're like, that's that doesn't seem like is somebody calling HR? That doesn't seem like appropriate, babe. Like, I am uncomfortable with how this moment has arisen. But apparently nobody else does. Everybody else celebrates it. Um, yes. Actually, in a kind of, I don't want to end the episode on this, so Kyle, you're going to have to come up with something cheery in just a second.
Okay.
In a kind of darker side note, apparently, Pamela Anderson auditioned for the part of this character and walked away from the film due to some casting couch style behavior from Seagal, who made some inappropriate passes towards her. If basically implied if she did certain things, then the role would definitely be hers. That is a rumor and an alleged. I do not want to be sued by Steven Seagal, so I will add that addendum onto that comment. But that is something that I read in the background
I
research.
I have to add more that I read talking about the previous movie, but apparently, I don't know if we mentioned this on the last episode, but supposedly Juliana Margulies was specifically picked for Out for Justice, and she said that she would see Seagal around like the movie studio or wherever, and he would always try to call her over and get her gratitude for like starting her career or something.
Oh God. No, I don't think we did mention that in the previous episode.
So that's not cheery, but evidently it supposedly happened.
Well, yeah, yep. Basically that's the end of the movie. The movie basically ends there. We see a ceremony. He's in his whites this time out of respect for the captain. We end on another weird note that apparently Jordan has now joined the Navy, and then we end on
Yes.
a zoom shot on Ryback's face. Just boy, it's we just pan into Ryback's face and then we cut to credits. And now this episode must have cut to credits as we both are now just very sad. But if you have enjoyed this episode, and the rest of it's been cheery, and it's not the best note to end on. But anyway, we've run out of movie, and we've run out of things to say about Under Siege. So we can't save it now, folks. You're just going to have to deal with it. But yes, if you have enjoyed this episode, please do rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, the iHeartRadio app, tune in, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just check us out, give us a rating and review. That would be very much appreciated. It helps with the algorithms. And it just leaves me to say cheerio for me, and cheerio from Kyle.
Likewise, yes, I'm just a cook.
And well, I think we'll end on this. It's some advice that we should all abide by, and Steven Seagal should definitely abide by. I know I should end on a note from Casey Ryback, but Seagal movies are weird, so I'm going to do a weird left field thing, and I'm going to leave on a bit of philosophizing from our previous friend, Detective Gino Foligno, and that is, hey, don't be a bad guy. Be a nice guy.